We're here to talk about Hogwarts Legacy and compare the PS5 and the Nintendo Switch versions. We're not here to talk about She Who Will Not Be Named. Take it away, Laura.
So Harry Potter was a massive part of my childhood. So I was super excited when Hogwarts Legacy was announced, super excited to play it, got it on the PS5 like straight away. And I knew it was coming out on the Switch. I kind of also knew that I was probably going to get both if it was a good game. I did. And now we're here to tell you like what the differences are, because obviously there's always going to be complications when you port something from the PS5 onto the Switch, because the Switch is so much worse.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair. Less powerful.
Performance-wise.
It's good. Yeah, all right. Yeah, it just doesn't...
It's good in its own right, but it's not like PS5 good.
No. It needs a bit of Viagra to help it along.
A lot of people have been calling it like a...
Miracle port?
Yeah, a miracle port.
Yep.
And I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I don't know if it's like a miracle port, but it's definitely better than I expected.
I think it's a miracle that the game exists on the Switch in the first place.
That's true.
This thing is huge. The world is huge, super interactive, looks really good. Like, the fact that it exists for us Nintendo players is something special in itself. But let's talk about some of those downgrades, eh? What can you expect?
Well, obviously, the graphics is like the first one that we'll touch on, and it's also the most obvious one. There's just no way that you could expect something that's coming from like the PS5 to look like that on the Switch.
This one's like a duh one. Like, of course. Like, if anyone expected it to look like the PS5, then you just set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah, you really are. You really would be.
I'm sorry. It's just never going to happen. Think of it akin to The Witcher.
Yeah, exactly. So the textures, much flatter. It does make it a bit more muddy and things like that. The worst part is the characters' eyes during cutscenes and stuff. Their eyes are like, pew, like wide open, and it's just too much eye contact.
Maybe everyone in the 50s or whenever it's set was just like walking around.
Hanging.
Like, I got you. You know?
I don't know, it's weird. I don't like their eyes. But, I mean, the graphics were obvious, so let's just move on from the graphics.
Can I interject quickly?
Yeah.
They've done a really good job with the cutscenes. They've obviously put a lot of effort and a lot of time into making the cutscenes, at least the main story cutscenes.
The story cutscenes.
Look really good, and that's obvious. Unfortunately, it's obvious because the rest aren't quite that good.
Yeah.
But it's still like props to the team for getting that there. So
the pop-in is also probably the second biggest issue with the game. NPCs and things will pop up like right in front of you. There was a deer that popped up like inches in front of me when I was like rolling through the forest one day.
I want to say think like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt again, because there's like a quite decent pop-in in that, but this one is worse.
Yeah, when you go through doors and things, the textures like take a lot longer to pop in than the base. The rectangular shape that the object is constructed from. Yeah. I also noticed that the lighting is really strange in this game, because there is a day-night cycle in Hogwarts Legacy, and there have been several times where it's kind of hard to catch because it doesn't happen every time, but on occasion, if it's going from nighttime to daytime, the lighting gets like super bright.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately something we couldn't capture because it does happen randomly.
Yeah, it is random.
So just take our word for it, I guess.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to trust me. You've got no reason to, but the weirdest part with the lighting, I don't know what this is, and it's honestly really strange. I'm sure it's not an intentional decision that they've made. I'm sure it has something to do with the port, but all of the interactive elements in the world that you can like cast spells on and things like that to solve puzzles in a dungeon or like a cave, anything like that, they're all like outlined in like white, kind of like they're shiny almost. Yeah,
the light's like shining through them.
It's very odd, and it wasn't like that in the PS5 version, but it makes the game much easier, because then you know what you need to cast a spell on. Usually you can cast that spell that illuminates the secret things and find out anyway, but this just makes it like a little bit too obvious in my opinion, so it's definitely easier.
Which is a shame actually, because, so speaking of easy, the world is also a little bit less full. There's way less enemies around also, and this is like an obvious drawback of the Nintendo Switch. Like, how do we make this run better? Cut the assets down that are on screen at one time.
There's dramatically less.
But it does make the game a little bit easier. Well, actually a lot easier. Like, Laura had to put it on hard.
Yeah, and I usually just play my games on normal person mode. I'm not usually like that keen on torturing myself in my like free time.
Is it even possible to torture yourself in the Switch version of Hogwarts Legacy?
No, because like I put it on hard and it's like still pretty easy. I mean, I think I died one time, but
okay, maybe they should have upped the enemy UI or something that would have like helped solve that
made the
difficulty
enemies
issue.
smarter.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it is what it is. Just put it on hard if you find it a bit easy.
Yeah, there's definitely way less enemies, but there's also less chests and loot and things like that. Like, I've been playing it for ages. I don't even have a single witch hat, which is, it's actually
really
grinding my gears now.
Very upset. Like,
the hats are like my favorite part.
Irrationally upset, dude.
I love changing my outfit in games. But I guess that it goes hand in hand with there being less enemies. They couldn't fit in like all of the enemies.
Maybe there's just less items in general. Maybe there's just less hats in general, because again, that's an easy way to cut down on things to get it to fit on the Switch. Is we just won't have as many custom options.
Yeah,
customizable options.
I think there is. Yeah, so when you first boot it up, you're like, oh yeah, the graphics are kind of shit. We all expected that, but everything else is the same. But it's actually not. Everything else is actually not quite the same.
Yeah, which is a bit of a shame.
But what really is important is the gameplay.
Right? 100%, definitely. It has to be. Like, it has to be. If you're going to buy this game and enjoy it, it's not going to be for the graphics.
No,
that's for sure.
It's definitely not. So the combat is, the combat's basically the same experience, apart from the fact that there's less of it. There's no frame rate drops for me that I've noticed anyway when I'm having an epic battle.
Yeah, the battles are like super full on and quite demanding on the hardware because they do happen so fast and there's so much going on screen.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's no frame rate drops, I think that's also indicative of this team who did this port was really focusing on certain things, and getting a smooth experience, we feel like, was their main goal.
Yeah.
If you've got to drop those graphics to have a smooth however many FPS, then that's what you've got to do. And I feel like that's what they've done.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think that's the right decision.
That's what I would do if I was making a port.
Yeah.
I mean, there are frame rate drops for sure, but in certain times, not that I've really noticed that heavily in combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the frame rate will definitely drop when you go through doors and around the castle.
The load times can get a little long sometimes.
They are pretty long. Not as bad as the Mortal Kombat load times.
Sure.
Nowhere
it's
near
just
as
most
bad.
obvious when you are running around the castle. In the PS5 version, it's a seamless experience. You just open a door and then you run out the door and you continue on your way. Whereas on the Switch, 9 times out of 10, you do have to wait for those other assets behind the door to load in until you're able to walk through it.
Not every door in the castle, but when you're moving from one area of the castle to another, particularly if you're going inside to outside.
So we have touched on this already, but if you are getting the Hogwarts Legacy Nintendo Switch port, don't watch those trailers that first dropped in January of last year or whatever and expect it to look like that. It's just not gonna happen. And it's just like, it's literally not possible for the Nintendo Switch to run it like that.
If you've got a PS5, don't get it on the Switch unless you're like me and you're obsessed with Harry Potter and you just had to play it again and you just had to play it on the Switch. If you're a normal person and you've got a PS5, don't bother with the Switch version. But if you don't have a PS5 at all and getting a PS5 isn't a possibility for you and you want to play Hogwarts Legacy, then play Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Don't let the naysayers hold you back on this one. The game works and it runs, we'll say well considered.
I'm going to say pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm enjoying my experience and I'm going to keep playing it.
But let's be honest, if you've got both systems and you're like, oh, it would be nice to play it handheld, maybe just don't worry about playing it handheld and go to PS5. That's our advice.
It is nice to play Hogwarts Legacy handheld though.
In bed,
Yeah.
candle,
Mhm.
cup of tea.
Glass of wine, maybe.
Ooh, speaking my language right now, yeah. But I mean, you can do that on your TV too, so maybe just
Yeah.
do that.
So what's our final result? I reckon not bad.
I reckon not bad. I agree. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a miracle port.
No, I wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't say it's the best port I've ever seen, but I will say that it is,
Playable.
I was going to say incredible that it's even here and that it exists in the first place.
Yeah, that's very true.
Thank you so much for watching and not leaving mean comments in the comment section below.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nah, go on, if that's what you want to do. Drop a comment down there. Hit the like and subscribe buttons while you're at it. Let us know if you're interested in Hogwarts Legacy or just the Switch port in general. It is interesting to like compare these things and see how the Nintendo Switch can run things.
It is, yeah.
We don't need a Switch 2. It would just be nice. That's all. Anyways, thank you so much. I'm Tom. That's Laura. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Tiddly pies.
Toodly pies, what the is that?
Tiddly pies, you never heard of that?
Nobody says that. That's not a thing.
Toodles. Toodles.
It's toodaloo, not toodly pies.
Tiddly pies is what that totally works though.
I'm Googling it.
Toodly poo, toodly pie,
Nobody-
toodaloo.
Nobody says toodly pies. Hey Siri.
Toodly poo. Yeah.